Okay, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of ways we can ways we can get data from a text file, for instance, on your hard drive in this example, into a program and add it into an array. So for ease of use, what I've done, this fruit stock data file, .text file, is just a text file, sits on the desktop or sits on my computer, and I've just copied this and pasted it into the program here so that we can reference the information there. The result of what I aim to do with this is put this data into an array of classes. So we have the fruit class sitting here, and we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fruits in an array of length of 4. Well, as well, 5, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4. Index is 0 indexed array. So once we've got that, we're then going to print out the supplier name and the supplier location, and there are a few queries that I want to do with the data. So I want to manually insert one blank entry into the imported data set rather than text file. So the imported data set, that's basically the array. So I want to insert one blank entry into the array, and then that'll be printed out here. We'll check if we can do that, and then I want to manually insert some blank entries into the imported dataset or array for each location if less than 5 entries for that location exist. So essentially, the way we're doing this is we get the whereabouts of the file. We tell the computer where the file is. We then read all the lines of that file into an array, and then we make an array. This is we read it into a string array, and then we make a fruit array which will house the string array as fruit eventually, and we make that the length of the entries in the string array, i.e. length of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we are going to make blank fruits for each item in the fruit array. That's going to house all the data that comes in. So then what we're going to do is populate that fruit array with the data by splitting it into parts. So we've got the first bit, second bit, third bit, fourth bit. So as this will be an array of a string array, this would be element 0, this would be element 1, element 2, element 3, and so forth. And as there will be, so then we need to, so we populate that in by selecting which part of the array we want to, which element. These are then elements. We say which part of the array we want to put into our fruit array. So we populate our fruit class with the data that's in the string array, and then we start performing some operations on it. So that's what we do. That's basically an overview of that part so far. This is just a bit. This split means we're splitting the data by that's the tab keyword, tab character. So I'm pressing the left and right arrow keys once. This is a tab. If I press tab, you can see it moves it across by that amount of space. So that's the tab character. So we're saying it's kind of we're splitting apart the data within the string into different parts. So elements of a string array, and we're doing that by using this command here, this method. So we split it via the separation point. So once we've done that, that creates and that returns a new array of which we put into the sections. So that's what we do here. Right. The first bit is I want to manually insert one blank entry into the imported data set rather than the text file. So let's uncomment this. So I want to manually insert one blank entry into the imported data set rather than the text file. So into the array. So one blank entry into the array. Well, before we do that, let's see what this prints out by just running the code. I put a breakpoint here. Let's have a look at the fruit array, which is the thing we're trying to populate. So we already have the first fruit populated with the breakpoints at the end. So let's have a look at the second fruit. It isn't. So if we then do continue, it should loop round to the next part. And we should have the second fruit populated, except from the last variable. And we do. So if we remove this breakpoint, we're happy that that works. We continue, and we've got ourselves, if we scroll up to the top, we can validate this. So what we're printing out is the supplier name for every fruit entry and fruit array. We're printing out the supplier name and the supplier's location. So yeah, it's doing that. And is it in the same order, etc. Yeah, Tesco's, and that's in London. So we've got 2 Londons, a Paris, and then 2 New Yorks. 2 Londons, Paris, 2 New Yorks. So it's got the data, and how we're doing that is we're actually iterating through a fruit array. So this has successfully used this code to take the data from the text file on my machine and put it into a fruit array, and that's great because now we can start performing operations on that. Right, so the first thing is I want to manually insert one blank entry into the imported data set rather than text file. So what we have to do first of all is we create a blank fruit, just a fruit, a new fruit, and we're just calling it blank. But yeah, all the data is blank there, and then we are appending it to the fruit array. I am unsure to why fruit to fruit. So appends value to the end. Cannot implicitly convert type enumerable fruit to fruit. Right, so we've got a list there, and what we should be doing is maybe we convert this to, what have we got? This is just a fruit, and we're trying to is either, what does this want? That wants an array, doesn't it? So that should get rid of the error because this is an array. Okay, so we should have, we're creating a new fruit, and we're using the fruit array, like array.append command, to add on the end a blank fruit, which we created here, and we're converting it to array because this expects an array, and then we're going out and printing it. So we should see the we should see where we're printing things here. So we should see all of the data, this data printed out, and then we would see this data, just one tagged onto the end of it, saying fruit name blank, etc. Let's do that. What have we got? So we've got the data at the top, yeah, and then we've got some blanks. so we've done that. That's good. Right. So next thing we want to do is this. Right, let's separate out the printing. So here we want to manually insert some blank entries, so more than one blank entries, into the imported data set for each location. So if less than 5 entries for that location exist, so the condition is, say if we had five items in London, 5 elements in London, we don't mind, that's all good. But say if Paris has just one of Paris, we need 4 extra blank ones created for Paris. So then we just have blank printed out. So let's have a look at how we do that. First of all, instead of having just the integer, it's always good practice to give your integer meaning by calling it something, so that when you're writing complex code, it's a godsend. It helps with readability. So we're calling the 5 because we're saying if less than 5 entries for the location exists. So really it's the target that we're trying to hit is 5. So we call this target entries per location. It's 5. And then we say we want to use this group by command, we're saying group locations equals fruit array group by fruit, so the fruit supply location. So what this does is it creates a kind of like a nested array. So if you've got if we have, let's try to write this example out. So if we're grouping the fruit array by supply location, we have the fruit array which contains all this information, but actually we want it by the supply location. So currently it's fruit name, each entry is just the fruit, and then you'd have to do dot supply location to get access to the location. But instead what we're doing is we're making something that kind of functions like a dictionary. So we would have the key would be the supply location, and the other elements within it would be the values. So if we so that explains that, right? So that's what that does, and then we make a list of fruit called extended array, and we instantiate that to make sure it exists, and then we look through the location group in group locations. So if we just go through this, put a breakpoint here, and then see, let's let it go to the next line. So we've got the location group. So as you can see, it's got a key. So we're talking about London, right? London has 2 elements in it. So the suppliers' names are Tesco's and Lidl. So if we have a look at that, London, we've got 2 fruit, and we've got Tesco's, and the second fruit is Lidl. And the group locations here is basically London, Paris, and New York. So that's what we have. So now what this does is what we're doing is we're then looking at the entries per location. So we want to count we want to count the amount of entries that already exist within a location, so that we can use that in a calculation to find out if the max has been reached. So we use a long count, in the location group, because you saw that the location group, if we go back, that the location group had two elements in it. This one does, because we're talking about London, right? So it's stepping through. So if I continue to the next one and look at the location group for this one, we got Paris. So this deals with Paris. It's got one entry in Paris. To double check, do we have one entry in Paris? Yes, we do. So it's going through for each location group in group locations. So for each location in there, we are trying to we are going into the location group and counting how many elements there are in it, so that we know how many entries there are per location. Then what we're doing is we're saying, if we're looping round and saying we're starting at the entries per location, and we're executing code until we hit the target entries per location, so that we're iterating on some code for the difference between those two. So in this case, if we have, what are we on? We're on 2 entries. So this will be executed 3 times. So if we continue to that bit, entries per location is 1. Okay, so this is Paris as one entry, so it's going to be 4. The difference is 4, so this will go around 4 times. So what should happen is this will execute 4 times and create a new blank fruit. Well, a new fruit, and we call it blank fruit. That has a fruit name blank, supplier name blank, available stock blank, supplier location. Now, what we're doing here is we're actually using the key. So if I go to location group, the key is Paris. So the supplier location, instead of calling it blank, we're calling it Paris, because what we wanted to do in the remit here was to add in some blank entries for each location if less than 5 exist. So we have to add in the location name in order to keep that data set. So we're inserting it in the right area of the data set. And then what we do is we've got this extended array that we made previously, this list, where we're adding in this blank fruit, and then we loop around again. We add in the blank fruit. So we got an extended array that we know is adding in all the extra things we need to add in. So once that's all done, we can then, what we want to do is kind of add this extended array to the fruit array, so that we have one fruit array with this additional these additional blank fruits added into it. And the way to do that is using this concat command, which is a link command. So we say fruit array equals fruit array.concat, otherwise it will just perform this operation, store it nowhere, and we want to store it in fruit array because we want to modify the existing database, the imported data set is called fruit array. So what we're doing is we're inserting this code just after the original creation of this fruit array, so that we are changing this fruit array before we read back the data from the fruit array and do anything with it. So here we start reading back the data in the fruit array, but we modified the data to what we want before we start doing whatever we want with it. So So that's that command. It adds fruit array. It adds the extended array to the fruit array, and the extended array is a list, so I have to use to array. And then again, when we print this out, when we print out the, I'll comment this line out first, and before I get there, I'll show you what we get. So this looks all quite good. We see we've got some blanks being created, more than just one as before, and that's because we have this loop here that doesn't just add one. Like up here, we're just adding one. We're creating one and we're adding one because we only wanted to insert one. But here we're inserting many. So we create a loop, and based on a condition to see how many we want to insert, then we're inserting, we're creating them and inserting them, and that's what we have. Stop that. I have to have a breakpoint somewhere. No. Okay. So yeah. So this data is quite hard to read, but it looks like so far, if we take London for instance, we need 3 more to make it hit the target amount, which is 5. So let's see how many more have been created. We've got 3. Perfect. So we know it's working, but it's a little bit hard to go through this data and read it. So we might want to organize this data in a way that we can easily read it. And that's what this command here does. So if we run this, we've got the data ordered. We've got the Londons, then we've got the New Yorks, and then we've got the Parises. So we've got, in order to do that, we modify the existing array by ordering it by the supplier location and then casting that to an array, converting it to an array, and then print it out. So, hang on. Okay. So that's how we can import data, and then we can manipulate that data to include other data, and then we can arrange that data so that when we do read it back, it's nicely arranged. Hope that helped. I'm Charles Burt, and this video is brought to you by hireaunitydeveloper.com.